Hello, everyone. Welcome to Behold Podcast. My name is Craig. I'm on staff at Arcade Church, and we are so glad that you have tuned in. We have a very special episode today. We've got the one and only Dr. John Mark Yeats with us today, and we are so excited. We're going to talk about Christian education, and what I want to tell you, even if you don't have a child that is ready for education, post-grad or undergrad, I really encourage you to tune in because what we have to talk about will really matter not just for your family, but for your church family as well. So we'll see you on the other side. Hello, my name is Craig, and welcome to Behold Podcast. I'm flying solo today because my teammate Beth has a birthday weekend and she wanted the time off. Go figure. But Beth, we miss you. But I'm very excited about today because we have with us the President of Corban University, Dr. John Mark Yeats. And he just got through speaking to the congregation Arcade Church, and it was incredible. And I want to have a chance to just talk to Dr. Yeats this afternoon and making an episode because so much is going on in our world, especially around Christian education, especially Christian higher education. So I want to have a chance to just kind of pick Dr. Yates' brain and kind of get where he's at, maybe where Corban is at. And just so you know, for those of you that may not have been here this Sunday, Arcade Church partners with Corban University because we are part of a larger organization called Venture Church Network. And it's about 1,000 churches nationwide, coast to coast. And we partner now with Corban University. It's the only undergrad school that we partner with, and we're very happy to do that. And so, Dr. Yates, thank you so much for being with us. Sunday was great.
Man, it was so good to be here. Yeah. What a great congregation. What a great chance to just worship the Lord together, study His Word together. And it was a delight. It's good to join you guys for this podcast and to be able to talk through some issues.
Yeah.
Because they're no shortage of issues that we're facing in our culture today. No. We talked a little bit about that this morning, about the nature of discipleship and how we want to make sure that we are following the Lord and that our declaration of who God is, it's His character that's the backbone of really who we are and what we do and making sure that we reinforce that.
And that's kind of why I wanted you here, because I don't know if these are hardball questions or not, but they're questions that I have. Even though I'm an alumnus of Corban, I'm on the board of trustees.
Yes, you're my boss.
Well, and you're paying for lunch, by the way, my friend. So just so you know. But I do want to get into some questions about this because I think these are questions that would interest our listeners, especially parents of middle schoolers, high schoolers,
right? Maybe
college students as well. As you know, there are Christian universities, and then there are Christian universities,
right?
Without naming any names, and I don't want you to name any names of other universities, what sets Corban University apart from many of the Christian universities that I'm aware of?
I was told we were going to be able to name names, so I don't know what we're supposed to. No, it is great. Every institution of higher learning has a mission. From a secular school all the way across the spectrum, they all have a mission. Our mission at Corban University is very simple. Educating Christians who will make a difference in the world for Jesus Christ. Every word in that mission makes sense.
Yeah.
And it's very important. So educating Christians, we're a discipleship university. Every student that comes to Corban University on their application must indicate that they've made a profession of faith in Jesus Christ. That's very different. When we look at a lot of Christian universities, they have some that institutions that may call themselves evangelism institutions. In other words, while we're Christian in name and we have Christian values indicated across our campus, you can have people from all walks of faith as long as they're willing to adhere to just the moral guidelines and strictures that campus has. We also have Christian institutions that I would say are more civilizing, meaning they are more interested in the body politic of our nation, and that there's a Judeo-Christian set of values that they want to inculcate and build and hold on to, and that's what's more important to them. So you kind of look at that spectrum.
And so Corban is by choice, not an evangelistic
Correct.
university, nor is it a civilized university.
Correct.
Even though we want evangelism to happen,
Correct.
and we want our students to be involved, even politically engaged.
Correct.
All that.
It's just not what defines us.
Yeah.
So instead, we are trying to make sure that our students understand that the highest priority is Christ, and then that filters out through everything else. So I was talking with a group of students the other day. We were talking about how orthodoxy, right belief, following God and what we hold to, the truth of the Scripture, the Word of God, how that informs our orthopraxy, which is our right practice. And so if we can get our orthodoxy straight, then it gives feet and hands to what we do, whether we're serving the community at large in our careers, our jobs, and that begins to work its way through. Consequently, in our classrooms at Corban, because we're educating Christians, we all have a level playing field. There are different denominations and other people that are there, but we all have a level playing field so that when we do faith integration in the classroom, it's very clear. So our faculty do a great job of taking the faith and making sure that students understand, how do I take this and work in excellence in accounting, nursing, teaching, whatever it is, and understanding the cultural moment that we're in, and how do we love people where they are, how do we show Christ where we are, and still work with excellence and demonstrate Christ in that way. I love that. It's great.
So why does Corban decide and determine to be that way? Because it seems to me, and this is, even though I'm connected to the school, I really want to know the answer to this question. I'm not leading you on or anything. It seems to me that a civilized emphasis or an evangelistic emphasis would get more students on campus. Is that an assumption that is not based on fact, or is that a fact?
I think we could probably put up counterfactuals to both of those.
Okay.
And so it'd be hard to draw a line. Definitely it's the case that if we say all are welcome to this place, that gives you a broader pool from which to draw.
Right.
But that doesn't necessarily equate to more students. We have plenty of open enrollment Christian institutions that are struggling with enrollment. That's not necessarily the case. That being said, by being very clear about who we are, I think it helps us. It automatically does a gatekeeping, so to speak, on the front side that lets us know who's in or who's out.
Yeah.
And that helps us be able to connect well with students as they're coming in, families, communities, churches. We do what we do, and people know what we do and how we do it. Consequently, it just limits on our front end. It's not for everybody. And that's okay. We're good with that. There's a place for evangelism schools, civilizing schools, as well as a very clearly Christian school. And to see this point too, we are the last Christian university at Corban University. We're the last university on the I-5 corridor from the Canadian border until you get to LA that still requires a profession of faith for all of its students.
And faculty as well, right?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Faculty. That's faculty, even staff.
Yeah. Yeah. And that blew, when you told me that about a year ago, that blew me away. Because all up and down the I-5 corridor, there are private Christian schools.
Yes.
That are known to be private Christian schools. And Corban is the only one until you get to
LA.
That's amazing to me. But I'm glad about that.
Yeah.
I'm glad. And so I think it's very important that when people know who Corban is, it kind of does this self-pruning or self-culling that we don't have to do as an institution.
That's correct.
Yeah.
And it's very clear. Great example. I meet with a lot of prospective families that come in, and we had a large group of parents and students in my office, and we were talking, and I was talking about this exact thing. It's like, this is something that is so great for us and our community, and it helps define us. And one of the parents raises his hand. He's like, "Are you serious about that?" And I said, "Yeah, this is a core element." He goes, "I'm not a Christian, and my son is searching. You're saying he wouldn't be a student here?" It's like, this is what we ask. We'd ask you to explore the claims of Christ, but that is who we are. And he goes, "Wow. Okay, I can respect that, but this isn't for us."
Yeah.
And they stopped the tour and
Yeah.
they walked, right?
Yeah.
So we don't make any bones about it.
Yeah.
It's not there. Now, we're not foolish enough to think that we don't have students who don't know Christ.
Yeah.
We know that. And
Yes.
we still are very clear about the gospel, still preach the gospel, not only because even as believers that we need to hear that and that encouragement, that reminder in chapel and other places. And even this last year, we've seen 10 students come to Christ over the course of
That's great.
Of the year.
Yeah.
So that's fantastic. But the expectation is at
Yeah.
the start that this is where we are.
Okay. All right. Probably the question that most parents want to hear a response to is the expense.
Yeah.
I mean, private education across the board, not just Christian education, but private education across the board, especially undergrad, is so exorbitantly high. And we hear all the time student debt, student debt, student debt. And certainly most students that go to a private school will incur debt of some type
Yes.
that's related to tuition or room and board. What is a justification for me as a parent? I've got a junior in high school or a senior in high school, and they really want to go to Corban. They live in California, and in California we have certain grants that are available to us that we don't have if we go to Oregon. What would be how would you talk a parent off the ledge, so to speak, to go ahead and say, send your kid to Corban, even though it's out of state? How do we deal with the expense
Right.
of Corban University?
So one of the things that anybody who's watching this podcast needs to understand is that by God's grace, individuals who love the Lord have consistently endowed and been generous with private Christian organizations, that many of them have scholarships that are significant, that bring the cost down or in alignment with state institutions. It's actually kind of a myth that state schools are that much cheaper.
Even in California?
Even in California. You can go through, and here's wonderful thing about regulation. I didn't think I'd ever had that sentence out of my mind. But Department of Education regulation, you can go to a calculator that is a true cost calculator on any school's website. You can punch in the numbers, and they will give you averages based on your income and other pieces that all are calculated. And you can get a relative financial comparison that allows you to see pretty much brass tacks. Great.
To compare Corban with UC Davis,
Yeah.
Sac State.
Yeah, whatever you got.
Yeah.
Whatever private, whatever public, you can do that. You can do the math, and you can see it. Everything from housing and fees to tuition, and you can compare that. What I would caution every parent is that when you do, and let's say you get something that's different. In Oregon, for example, I know that the average student, according to the calculators, can actually attend Corban with our average financial package that we do for less than the University of Oregon.
Oh, wow.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
But that's just the way that it works out.
And
By the time
it's
you get
funny, that
housing and
information
meals
doesn't
and-
get out there.
It doesn't get out there very often.
Yeah.
But here's the deal. Let's say we were $5,000 a year more expensive. $5,000. Are we saying that a high quality Christian education where your son or your daughter is exposed not only to all of the world's thinking, but how to work with that from a Christian worldview isn't worth $5,000 a year? So we already know we're going to spend. So what's the differential?
Yeah.
What's the differential? I would make the case that that differential is very small if it exists at all. It just is transformative for students. Your most formative years as a young adult are 16 to 22. So in the crux of this, sometimes we make an assumption that either, and I hear this a lot, that I've homeschooled my kid, so they've got their secularism shot, and so they've been inoculated. Yep,
Yeah.
they've been inoculated, and they're not going to do that. And then I watch them go to secular university, and they drift from their faith hard because they've not been tested.
Well, yeah, they have a professor that's attacking their faith specifically.
Directly.
Yeah.
Absolutely directly.
Yeah.
And it's not as if we're not going to introduce you to the same ideas. We're still going to introduce you to the same ideas. Our faculty are, because there are ideas that are in the world. However, we're then going to demonstrate these are the things that you then show or demonstrate, or this is what you can be confident on, or this is why this is misguided or misplaced. It is so important for our families to be able to at least do the math. Now, these are young adults. They get to make their own decisions, right? But as parents, we should be careful about how we guide our children in these frameworks.
Yeah. You know, it's funny about the integration part is, because I'm on the board of trustees, the subcommittee that I belong to gets a chance to read a lot of the integrated reports by the faculty. And just this last week, I read 3, and I was absolutely blown away at how a science teacher or a math teacher could be able to integrate the principles of a biblical worldview and do that in such an effective way that I'm reading this and I'm learning.
Yeah.
I mean, it's amazing. It's highly gifted people to take a discipline that you can find anywhere and then plug that into a biblical worldview in a way that's effective and memorable. It's incredible. And I know other Christian universities probably do that.
Absolutely.
I've just never been aware of it until I've read a lot of these CVs at Corban, and it's incredible.
And this is a thing that if you are looking at other Christian universities, you need to ask the question. If you're a student or if you're a parent, you need to ask the question, what does integration of faith and learning look like at your institution? Some institutions are really good at saying we integrate faith and learning. It's on their tag.
Right, yeah.
But what that means is the professor prays before class.
Yeah. That's my fear with a lot of institutions right now.
It is. The professor prays before class, and then they just go on teaching like they would if they were teaching at UCal Berkeley or wherever, right? It doesn't make that a difference. It should be fundamentally transformative of the way that we approach education. Yeah. And then you can, once you understand that, you could then look at outcomes. What's job placement look like? Because we do get, I'm sure we could find some Christian institutions who kind of get in their own little niche and they get a little bit too much inside the bubble. And then they forget that there is a world that we're doing this. I'm so proud of our students at Corban and where we are. I was at the Chamber of Commerce 2 weeks ago, and I had 2 separate firms come up to me and say, hey, when's graduation? I need to get a hold of some resumes because I can't take on new clients until I get a quality student from your accounting program.
Wow.
I'm waiting on your guy because your guys act with integrity. Your guys know what they're doing. They know how. I want your team. We're launching a nursing program this fall, and I'm super excited about it.
Very exciting.
God has always done great things through people working in the medical field. We had always done a pre-nursing program, and then we sent them to another university to finish off their BSN, kind of a partnership arrangement. And one of the local hospitals said, I don't know what you guys do differently, but the students who come from your school for 2 years first and then go to this other school are much higher in quality than the students who just went with that other university for all 4 years. And they were one of our leading sponsors with the Oregon Health Board to be able to say, yes, we need students from this institution to come.
That's always encouraging to hear.
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
So there's this holistic framework of raising up men and women who are educating Christians who are going to make a difference. And that's where that throughput goes to where we say, okay, it's not just education for the sake of education. It is going to be making a difference for Christ. Yeah. And that goes back to your prior question. What about debt? What about these other things? Right. So we should ask that question because we want to be good stewards of God's resources. The truth of the matter is that the average person who has a college degree, all of the evidence always bears out that they will make more over a lifetime relating to revenue from jobs if you have a college degree. That's just consistent across all of the data. Here's what's different. We know that college isn't for everyone. There are some, even like one of my sons, that probably in a trade, and that's fantastic. And I love that. I'm proud of my son for pursuing those kinds of things. And we need people who are skilled at their jobs and skilled at what they're doing. And we want to encourage that in every single way that we possibly can. When we look at some of this data about debt, what often is not conveyed is that a bulk of the people who are buckling under student debt are those who didn't finish a degree.
Oh, okay.
Okay. So you have a lot of people who start university.
That makes sense.
And then for some reason they tap out or they say, I want to do something else. And so now they've got debt with nothing to show for it on the other side.
Yeah.
And so they're carrying around this sandbag, which they didn't get what they needed on the other side. It is not frequently, it can be, but it is not frequently someone who has gone all 4 years with a targeted viewpoint towards the end. It is frequently those who stop their progress for one reason or another early.
Yeah.
And in the process, they're carrying around this debt and they don't have the means then to turn and pay that off because they're not in a field yet because they didn't finish their training.
Okay, so this is a great segue into this next question. I'm a high school senior.
Yeah.
And I heard you preach Sunday morning and thought, okay, I like the idea of Corban University. I think I might go there, but I have no idea what major I want to do, and I don't want to pay that kind of money to go and be directionless. And so, because I would see that as wasting my money.
Yeah.
I can hear parents say that, perhaps. How would you counsel someone like that who, I really want to go, I don't know what I want to do, and so I'm concerned that I'd be wasting my money by going to Corban because I might find out I want to do something that Corban doesn't offer.
Yeah.
So how would you counsel someone in that situation? I have to think it's fairly common.
Oh, it's so common.
Yeah.
It's so common.
Yeah.
Here's the thing. I don't care what university you go to, outside of a small handful of students, most kids come in either thinking they know what they want to do or they don't know what they want to do. And even those who think that they know what they want to do, they change majors.
I did. That was my story.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
It's very rare that someone comes in and it's just a great example. My daughter wants to be a teacher and she has wanted to be a teacher since she was like, I don't know, 2. She's always wanted to be. It's like a calling of God on her life. She's not going to change her major, right? She's dedicated. She knows. Perfect. That's great. Let's get you in the best education program. She's at Corban, and that's fantastic. She's pursuing what God's calling her life. There are others who don't know, but they'll still come to a place like Corban, declare a major that they might be interested in and start exploring it and figure out, oh, I actually like this other aspect, or I want to turn and I want to move in this direction. But if they aren't exposed to it, you don't get a chance to learn how to do that. And you can let your indecision stymie you for too long, and then you end up directionless and again, late to the party, so to speak. But here's the joy when we find students who don't know at, say, like a Corban University, and let's say they get going and they want to do engineering. Okay. I don't have an engineering degree at Corban. It's something, Lord willing, maybe in the future. So engineering, and they decide they want to be an engineer, but they don't know that till year 2. Most students are still able to pick up their credits and transfer wherever they need to go. And
they've, in their portfolio, they got some really wonderful Bible classes to really ground them in the Word.
And
as
they've got
freshmen.
everything that they need.
Yeah.
Another approach, and we see this, a lot of families will do this, where a student will go for a year or 2 to community college.
Right.
Sometimes states will have, like California, Oregon does, Washington State does, that you can go for low cost or no cost to community college. One of the challenges that we find with that is in the broader data of education frameworks, the students who do that rarely finish. They rarely finish their studies at the community college. They rarely finish any type of degree. They don't move to a 4-year degree. So it's just frustrating. And think about it. Why? Well, part of what's transformative about a university degree is that I'm going to a place and I'm engaging for 4 years in a community which is every bit as formative and educational as is my classwork, right? I'm learning something when my friend down the hall comes and knocks on my door at 11 p.m. distraught because, their girlfriend broke up with them. I'm learning soft skills that direction that help. And then as community, we're working together at a community college where you're engaging in transactional relationships. I'm just transacting in this class. There's no stickiness to that. Now, there's some fine men and women who teach at our local community colleges, and they're dedicated to doing that, and praise God for them. And it is so good. But the evidence itself makes it to where if I were a parent, even though that looks free and low cost, I should be asking myself, what is my son or daughter losing within a 2 or 3 year window while they're trying to figure all this out in soft skills and relational skills? And many times those relational skills last for their whole life.
I mean, anecdotally, that is my story.
Yeah.
I grew up in a church. I was taught the Bible really well, and came to Corban. I just wanted to get out of Boise. I didn't come to Corban because I had this great conviction to go to a Christian college. I just want to get out of Boise. And so I came to Corban, and my first year, I looked at Corban as a glorified church camp. And so I went on academic probation. I mean, they should have expelled me because I had no desire. I can remember, this is getting off topic here a little bit, but
it's not off topic.
I could remember going to my first Old Testament survey class, and I was blown away that they didn't take attendance. Well, if they don't take attendance, they must not care whether I'm there or not. And so guess what? I didn't go. And as a result, I was on academic probation almost the entire year. And part of it was a very spiritual immaturity. I was just a hypocrite. I had no passion, no desire whatsoever to obey Jesus or to go on in ministry. I wasn't thinking. I just want to get out, play basketball for Corban, and then move on.
Yeah.
My sophomore year, I come back to Corban, and it's fall, probably midway through the fall semester, and I'm in the salad bar line. And right behind me is my lit professor from the previous year who almost flunked me, Jim Hills.
Oh, Jim Hills, legend.
Yes, and so he's right behind me, and his brother was my coach in basketball, so he called me Hardinger. Hey Hardinger, kind of thing. And Jim's right behind me in the salad bar line, and he goes, Hardinger? And I thought, oh, great, here we go, because he really lit me up the previous year because I was doing very poorly. I don't know what it is, but I see a big difference in you this year, and I like what I see. That was it. And I look at that moment, Dr. Yeats, as the moment when I noticeably knew that my life was being changed.
Yeah.
I never had a man speak into my life positively that way.
Yeah.
It is more I could do better, I had a great dad, but I never had someone who was an objective outsider like Dr. Hills say anything positive about anything, because the Lord had changed my life that summer, and I'd come back having made some changes, but I barely noticed them. And I've talked, and Jim, he was the advisor for my doctoral program when I went to that 15 years ago. And so I said, you remember that? He said, I don't remember that at all. I said, I know, that's what happens at Corban University. Right. Is that you are interacting with these professors, not in a classroom situation, but on a daily situation, going into their homes, playing cards, watching a movie together, sitting next to them in games.
Yeah.
And that is the beauty of what Corban University did for me personally.
Absolutely.
And it was transformative. I learned a lot in class, but the lessons I learned were the soft lessons in the dormitory, as well as rubbing elbows with these professors throughout everyday life.
Yeah, and I would encourage anybody who is a family that has a son or a daughter who's looking at university and they're at that age, you guys need to check out your Christian universities. And it may not be Corban, but you need to check out Christian universities. Why? Because most of them have that type of dynamic encounter on a regular basis. They just do, because it's normal, baked into who we are. Because we believe that the gospel transforms lives. Consequently, your average faculty member, who also is very clearly a believer, is going to see a student as a person that the Lord can transform. They're going to be involved in their life. I eat in the cafeteria frequently when I'm on campus, and I'm watching. My faculty are sitting with students. Their coaches are sitting with the students. they're doing that.
Yeah.
We have I love this. We have an external vendor that handles our food, right? So they come on our campus and they do this. So I was talking with the director just this last week, and she was saying, you know what? I've worked in a lot of other environments and a lot of other arenas. I have never seen a community function like this ever. This is amazing. Now, because they're an
That's
external,
why I put a spring in your step.
oh yeah, because this is an external person
Yeah.
who's verifying what we're saying, not a believer, right? Because it's an external vendor, but the testimony of being able to see students just being students,
Yeah.
goofy, sometimes emotional, sometimes crazy, sometimes really serious, right? Just the community, the whole piece, to see that and for her to be able to say that, man, I just love that because that's what we get the privilege of being able to be a part of.
Yeah. Amen. Well, Dr. Yeats, thanks so much for being here.
Absolutely.
Thanks for preaching on Sunday, and just thanks for taking some time out after you've preached to have a conversation
My
with
delight.
me. We do want to end. This is a Behold podcast, so we want to end with the Behold passage. And I want to just piggyback off of the passage that Dr. Yeats preached on this morning out of Deuteronomy chapter 6. And the thing that catches me with this, it's a familiar passage too. If you're Arcadian, then you know this passage. But the thing that draws my attention is sometimes when, for example, a president of a university comes here, it'd be easy for someone like me to think, well, my kid's out of college. My grandkids aren't old enough yet for college. What can this possibly have to do with me? And the beautiful thing about being part of a church is that whether you have children engaged or not, and whether you have grandkids that are engaged or not, you have an impact because you are a generation.
That's right.
A generation that has to pass things on. So let me just read the text, or part of the text that Dr. Yeats preached on this morning. It's called the Shema. It's something that an Israelite family would recite at least once a day, and it always be mindful of them. But it's in Deuteronomy chapter 6, verse 4. Hear, O Israel, the Lord our God, the Lord is one. You shall love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, with all your mind. And these words, might. It's might. No. And these words that I command you today shall be on your heart. You shall teach them diligently to your children, and shall talk of them when you sit in your house, and when you walk by the way, and when you lie down, and when you rise. The thing that blows me away is this is not a command to make sure this is in your child's heart, but in your heart.
Oh, it's so good.
And when it's in your heart, you do these things, and God will take care of the heart of your child. And I find that so powerful.
Yes.
And so wonderful is that if you are a member of a church, we know that a lot of non-Arcadians listen to this podcast. Whatever church you belong to, every child you see in that fellowship, on that campus, you may not have a direct relationship with, but your life and your testimony for Christ affects them in a positive or negative way. And so we must see that as a family, as a body of Christ, that we have this beholding of who Christ is, and that bleeds down to generation after generation after generation. And if you haven't, go on our YouTube channel and watch and listen to Dr. Yeats' message on this, because it was powerful. And you used the whole chapter. I love that. And using most of the
I thought I was
chapter.
going to get in trouble for that. That's the whole chapter. I mean, that's a lot of
No, you
to put
covered it.
together.
You covered it well. You did. You did, brother. You covered it well. But Dr. Yates, again, thank you so much.
Thanks for having
me. And we're
me.
so grateful that you took the time out to be with us. And so if you can go ahead and we'd appreciate that on whatever platform you use. Until the next time, thanks for coming.